Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So enjoying all of this. I wanted just to give you a little practice to do for the rest of this week. So I'm going to start with the review. And the first principle again is to set your foundation and open to grace. And remind you that setting your foundation, there's one part about just which direction are your feet from those three basic foundations. And there's that other layer of like, are you standing on hot rocks or are you relaxing down into the ground? So setting the foundation and opening to grace, like, oh, this pose might feel really good. This whole practice might feel really good. This whole day might go really well. And opening up to the possibility that you'll get more benefit from your practice. You set your foundation and open to grace is the first principle. And then the second principle is called muscular energy, which is a hugging of the skin to the muscle to the bone, from left to right, and from the end of your limbs to the beginning, from distal to proximal. So it's this like pulling in and creating more integrity. And we looked a lot also at like squeezing your shoulder blades back to help plug the arm bones in. Not too much that it feels tight, just this little bit of hugging. It's a hug, not a strangle. So you set your foundation and open to grace, and then muscular energy. And we worked on that as a pulsation, a spanda, this going back and forth between setting the foundation, opening to grace, and creating some muscular energy there. So let's look at that in each pose for the warrior flow that I've been teaching you. So here we are in Tadasana. Foundation set, we're open to grace. And then muscular energy. And then we'll inhale and reach your arms up. Same foundation, still open to grace, which often includes open rib cage. Then muscular energy, squeezing, holding the pose sweetly. Right? And then standing forward bend. So you just forward bend, which often, because your head comes forward of your hips, throws your balance. You got to find your center of gravity here again, setting your foundation. Opening to grace. Maybe this pose will just keep getting easier. And then squeeze it right where it is. Good enough. Hold it there. And then feel your foundation open to grace. Oh, that gives you a little more depth usually. And then you hold that. Right? So you pulse between those two principles. For the next inhalation, come into all four. Sorry, chair pose. Feeling your foundation, opening to grace, squeezing, holding the pose, being held by the pose, opening to grace, holding the pose, muscular energy. Right? We sink a little lower with the next exhale. New foundation, new grace, new squeeze. And we stand up on the right leg, lift the left. Foundation, grace, squeeze. Reaching back for warrior one. Foundation, grace, squeeze. Open wide for warrior two. Foundation, grace, squeeze. And warrior two, because a bunch of you guys had knee stuff. Um, Knee right over the ankle, not rolled in, not rolled out. Straight ahead, pointing the same direction as your foot. And the shoulder people are plugging their shoulders in. Foundation, grace, squeeze. Good. Reach forward. Push off through the front foot, warrior three. I'm not sure if I did this one, but we're doing it here. Foundation, grace, squeeze. Hold it. And then fall back to warrior one. Foundation, grace, squeeze. And also we worked on scooping the tailbone in this pose to help keep your back long. Okay, let's sweep to the front and place your foot. Foundation, grace, squeeze. Second side, inhale up. Principles. Fold. Principles. Halfway up. Principles, fold, principles. Chair pose with an inhale, foundation, grace, squeeze. Sink a little bit, foundation, grace, squeeze. Lift the right foot off, foundation, grace, squeeze. Extend, back, you can land it here. Warrior one, foundation, etc. Warrior two, feel the principles, get them inside so I don't have to repeat them. Just know what to do. Warrior three, feeling for those principles. Place your back foot, feel tailbone scoops, feel the principles. Step to the front, place your foot, and feel those principles. So let's go in a lot of detail. As you get faster in it, you can move a little faster. You can inhale up, exhale and fold. Inhale for the chair. Exhale to sink. Inhale to lift your left foot. Exhale to extend it back to the ground. Inhale, extend up for warrior one. Exhale, sink a little bit lower. Remembering Jessica, you had a back foot thing. Inhale to open to warrior two. Bring your hands forward. Find the principles with an exhale, and then inhale. Warrior three. Land back. Warrior one. And then come to the front to come home. Second side, inhale up. Principles. Folding, keeping the principles. Warrior two, halfway up. Fold. Inhale, chair, principles. Sink, principles on an exhale. Lifting your right foot, principles. Extending back, principles. Scooping the tail to come up. Sinking the front knee. Opening wide for warrior two. Hands forward. This is just a preparation. Then you inhale to warrior three. Fall back, warrior one. And sweep to the front to come home and let it all go. So that's the opening sequence. Let's turn and step wide here. You're going to turn your right foot out. Bend your right knee 90 degrees. Extend your arms. Principles. Bring your right elbow down to your right knee. Sink. We played with one of the muscular actions was from the knee through the thigh bone, kind of drawing in. So you sort of plug that thigh in, and the back thigh plugs into the hip there. So you're sort of hugging your feet towards each other to engage the thigh bones into the hips. And then you extend, which is more of next week's practice. Okay, let's come back up. Turn your feet around. Principles. Principles. Stay here for a few breaths. Pulse through the principles. The drishti, where you look. Let's inhale and come back up. That's me doing a quick time check. Good, we're going to come down to a seat. You come any old way, but try to stay in the yoga practice. You're going to fold your left foot in, keep your right leg extended. And so a lot of what I said about the principles here is like when you bend the knee, this helps lift the thigh bone in and draw into the hip socket. There's this muscular energy drawing in here that might help you extend out over your leg. Wherever you get, feel your foundation. Open up to the possibility that this might get easier as you breathe. And then hold yourself sweetly. Hug yourself where you're at. And then feel the foundation again. Soften that. And pulse between and see if that drops you in deeper or not. Not important that it does. Just being nicer to yourself wherever you are. But also, remember that, let's sit back up, that like, that flex, that squeeze, that little, body high. Right? Second side. Going through the principles. So right foot's folded in, left leg straight. I like to scoot that foot in and push it back. Pulsing between the principles. Setting the foundation, opening to grace is the first one. Squeezing the muscles is the second. Feeling whether this opens you up. Works pretty well for me. And sit back up. Roll down onto your back. And let's look at it here. So in the upper body, the muscular action is squeezing the shoulder blades back. And I had you put a block between your thighs here. Happen to have one right here. I like going the wide way and really close in. That helps me really feel my inner thighs, my adductors. So the arms pull in, just like the knees through the thigh bone to the hip, the elbows through the arm bone to the shoulder. Just pulling in. You squeeze in as you come up. And you feel your foundation. You open to grace. And you squeeze. Feel your foundation. Open to grace. Squeeze. Feel your foundation. Open to grace. Squeeze. Okay. Let's roll back down. Try to touch that last vertebra down before your hips touch. Take the block out. Let's hold your knees for a little bit here. Feel your foundation. So this is a foundation I didn't really talk about. This is just your back. Right? Nothing else. Foundation. Grace. Squeeze. Hug your knees towards each other. Suck your knees through your thighs into your hips. And relax again. Okay. Next we're going to do a twist. So put your feet back down on the floor. And a nice touch here is to lift your hips and shift them to the left before you drop your knees to the right. So I just shifted my hips the opposite way my knees are going. I might explain that to you in class more, but it's not important right now. I happen to have the block handy still, so if your knees don't go all the way to the ground, you can put a block under your knees to catch them because you want them to feel supported so the stuff in your waist can release. Okay? You can extend your left arm out to the left, set your foundation, open to grace, squeeze. Set your foundation, open to grace, squeeze, just working the principles. The block is unnecessary, so I'm taking it out. And one more breath here. And we're going to inhale. Lift your knees back up. Remember, we shifted the hips, so you'll be a little crooked. So you're going to lift your hips, shift to the middle. Actually, I like to pause in between sides and feel a difference. I usually get a lot of that pose. And then I go to the second side. Lift, put your hips to the right before you drop your knees to the left. And look out over your right shoulder. Setting the foundation. Opening to grace. Squeezing. Hugging. And at first, I didn't really say this in class, but at first this is a pulsation. You're like an alternating. I mean, I can even say at first you're alternating. You're consciously doing one, then doing the other. Then it becomes a pulsation. And eventually, the pulsation speeds up and it becomes a vibration of grounded squeezing. That took me many, many months to get there, but thought I'd give you that opportunity. And finally, we'll unwind for the corpse pose. You can set yourself up. If you got back stuff, remember to put something under your knees. Blocks will work for that. Any rolled up blanket. You set your foundation. Then open to grace, and you stay in the grace. You listen to your breath. And here you're just releasing as deep as you can. Scanning for anything that you missed. When you feel like you've released enough, try to keep that inner peace as you start to move your limbs again, little by little. Moving at a pace where you can keep the calm. Thank you so much for your practice. Try it on a few times during the week. See you guys Saturday. Appreciate you. Until then.